It began with a scream. Not the kind that echoes through a stadium when a team clinches the World Series, but the digital kind. Millions of voices, sharp and mocking, erupting across social media. They weren't cheering for the Los Angeles Dodgers win. They were tearing apart a 14-second video that, for a few brief hours, Meghan Markle thought would make her look human again. In that clip, Meghan was radiant. She jumped, clapped, and laughed like a woman who'd finally shed the weight of royal protocol. She was surrounded by friends, basking in the glow of victory. But beside her sat Prince Harry, still, blank-faced, almost frozen in quiet disinterest. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't pretending. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And that contrast lit the fuse. "Look how fake she is," one comment read. Another wrote, "She's performing for the camera again." Within minutes, the words "staged," "PR stunt," and "fake celebration" started trending. The internet had found its latest scandal, not a political one, not a war, not a tragedy, but a moment of joy turned into a trial by public opinion. But what if that moment wasn't what it seemed? What if that laughter, the wide, camera-ready smile, was a mask, one that had been slipping for months? Because hours after that video went viral, Meghan Markle would say something no one expected. "I'm sorry I faked it." Now, that might sound like a simple apology, but those 5 words carried the weight of years. Years of image building, criticism, and emotional exhaustion. What did she mean by faked it? Was she talking about her celebration, her marriage, or something much deeper, her entire public persona? That's where our story begins. This wasn't just about baseball. It wasn't even about a viral clip. This was about a woman who had built a life under the blinding lights of 2 worlds, Hollywood and the British monarchy, and suddenly found those lights exposing everything she wanted to hide. Let's rewind. It was a warm California night. The Los Angeles Dodgers had just clinched the World Series title against the Toronto Blue Jays, a matchup that split households and friendships alike. For Meghan, it was a chance to celebrate her adopted city's pride. For Harry, it was another reminder of the life he left behind, his British roots, his identity, and his quiet love for Canada, where he once felt free. When Meghan's close friend, Kelly McKee-Zajfan, posted the clip, it seemed innocent enough. Just 3 friends at a game, celebrating victory. Kelly's caption read, "Best game ever. Sorry H, your team didn't win, but mine did. Dodgers, I love you." But what happened next would spiral out of control. Because to millions online, nothing about that clip seemed real. The camera angle was too perfect. The lighting was flattering. Meghan's reaction seemed exaggerated, rehearsed, cinematic. And Harry, the man once known for his warmth and humor, sat beside her looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. In a digital age obsessed with authenticity, the public didn't see joy. They saw performance. Cameras constantly filming every moment, one user noted. Another mocked, "Oh my gosh, look how happy we are. See, we have a friend and it's not my bottle of wine." The comments were brutal, but familiar, the kind Meghan had been facing for years. And yet, something about this one hit harder. Because this wasn't Meghan defending herself from palace intrigue or media bias. This was Meghan, in her world, among her friends, and the world still called her fake. It begged the question, can Meghan Markle ever be seen as real again? Think about it. Every moment of her public life has been dissected, analyzed, and doubted. From her wedding tears to her interviews, every smile has been questioned. Every expression, branded, calculated. So when this video surfaced, it wasn't just about a baseball game. It became the latest piece of evidence in the ongoing case against her authenticity. But what if Meghan wasn't faking happiness to manipulate anyone? What if she was faking it just to survive? Behind the laughter and the bright lights, insiders claimed Meghan had been struggling for months. Between the collapse of major projects, Netflix frustrations, and growing tension with Harry, this World Series appearance was supposed to show unity. A fun night out. A bit of normalcy. But the moment she hit post, that illusion shattered. The irony? It was supposed to be a private moment between friends. But the modern Meghan Markle doesn't have private moments. Not anymore. Every phone, every glance, every camera becomes a lens pointed straight at her soul. And when that lens captures a misstep, even an innocent one, it becomes ammunition. But here's where things get interesting. Because Meghan didn't ignore it this time. She didn't stay silent or let her PR team handle the storm. She addressed it head-on. And when she did, her words surprised everyone, even her critics. In a quiet, emotional admission during a private conversation that later leaked to the press, Meghan said, "I just wanted to look happy. I thought that's what people wanted to see. I'm sorry I faked it." Simple, honest, vulnerable. But in that vulnerability, people saw something else, proof. Proof that she had been faking, not just a moment, but maybe everything. Her marriage, her joy, her authenticity. And so, the internet doubled down. The apology became another weapon. She admitted it, one tweet screamed. Finally, she tells the truth. She's been pretending all along. But here's the contradiction that no one wanted to face. Meghan's apology wasn't about deception. It was about exhaustion. Imagine being forced to smile for cameras when your life feels like it's falling apart. Imagine being told that your every move will be used against you. That no matter what you do, real or fake, the world will decide your motives for you. So she smiled. She clapped. She jumped. Because that's what survivors do when they've been taught that silence equals guilt. In Hollywood, authenticity is a brand. In the royal family, it's a weapon. And Meghan lives at the intersection of both. That's why this story matters. Because it's not just about Meghan. It's about the price of performance in a world that demands perfection but punishes effort. Why do we crave authentic celebrities, yet rip them apart when they let the mask slip? Why do we call women fake for trying too hard, but cold when they stop trying? The truth is, Meghan was never going to win that night, no matter how real her celebration was. And Prince Harry? His disinterest wasn't just about the Blue Jays losing. Those who know him say it went deeper, that the quiet look on his face spoke volumes about the state of their marriage. Because while Meghan faked joy, Harry may have been faking something too. Peace. You see, that World Series night wasn't a happy accident. It was supposed to be part of a larger plan, a friendly, relatable couple moment to rebuild their image after months of negative headlines. A team effort to remind the public that they were still the fun, free, independent pair who left the palace to live authentically. But instead, it backfired. Because the camera caught what no one expected. The contrast between two people pretending to feel something they didn't share anymore. And that's where it gets haunting. When you slow down the footage, frame by frame, you see Meghan glance at Harry mid-celebration. For a fraction of a second, her smile falters, her eyes searching his for connection. He doesn't look back. He claps once, politely, then checks his phone. That was the moment everything cracked. Fans didn't just see a fake reaction, they saw emotional distance. They saw the illusion of a perfect marriage unraveling in real time. And Meghan saw it too. Because not long after that clip was posted, insiders say Meghan confronted Harry about his coldness, and his response was devastatingly calm. "You don't have to perform for me, Meg," he reportedly said. Not anymore. That line stuck with her, because it was the same one she had used to describe her royal years. Performing, smiling, curtsying, always under watch. And now, here she was, free, but still acting. Maybe freedom isn't about escaping the palace. Maybe it's about escaping the version of yourself the world refuses to let die. And that's where her apology came from. Not shame, not manipulation, but surrender. For the first time, Meghan stopped defending the image. She admitted that maybe she had been pretending, not because she wanted to deceive the public, but because she didn't know how else to live anymore. And that admission, "I'm sorry I faked it," became her most human moment yet. But of course, in the digital age, even honesty gets weaponized. The tabloids spun it into confession. The critics called it proof. The fans called it redemption. But no one asked what she was really apologizing for. Because maybe, just maybe, she wasn't apologizing for the World Series video at all. Maybe she was apologizing for something much bigger. Something that happened before the cameras started rolling. Something only a few people in that stadium knew about. Because hours before that game, before the cheering, before the viral post, Meghan and Harry had an argument. One that changed the entire energy of the night. And it's that moment, hidden from the public eye, that reveals the truth behind her apology. What happened between Meghan and Harry before the world saw that fake celebration? What did Meghan mean when she said she had to fake it to survive? And who leaked her words to the press, turning a private confession into a global headline? That's the story we're about to uncover. Because the truth isn't always caught on camera. Sometimes it's hidden behind the lens, waiting to be found. And what came next would change everything. Because the moment Meghan's apology went public, the world didn't just question her joy. It questioned her reality. It started as just another celebrity moment. A blink and you'll miss it video, meant to show happiness, friendship, and maybe a touch of normalcy. 14 seconds. That's all it took. But in those 14 seconds, Meghan Markle went from a glowing Dodgers fan to the internet's newest villain. The clip begins with a wide grin. Meghan, dressed casually but unmistakably polished, jumps to her feet, clapping and shouting as the Los Angeles Dodgers seal their World Series win. Her friend, Kelly McKee, pans the camera perfectly, too perfectly, some would later claim, capturing Meghan's energy in full view. The caption is lighthearted, almost playful. Best game ever. Sorry your team didn't win, but mine did. Dodgers, I love you. But then the frame widens. Next to Meghan, Prince Harry sits still. Not frozen, not angry, just disconnected. His face carries the faint smile of a man trying to look involved but failing. His arms are crossed. His eyes, distant. For a second, he looks toward Meghan, then away again, almost as if to say, "Go ahead, this is your stage." That moment, that look, became the spark. Within minutes, the video spread like wildfire. Fans reposted it, tabloids clipped it, and social media turned it into a battlefield. Theories bloomed faster than the Dodgers' champagne bubbles. Was Meghan really that excited? Was Harry that bored? And, more importantly, was any of it real? The comment sections filled up instantly. Fake. All of it. She's acting again. She must have planned that shot. Why is Harry always so uncomfortable around her? It wasn't long before staged Dodgers video began trending across X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. The hashtags #MeghanFake and #DodgersDrama surfaced. Users began dissecting every frame. The lighting, the angle, the expressions, like detectives on a digital crime scene. And yet, underneath all the sarcasm and suspicion, there was something deeper happening. A collective obsession with authenticity. Because Meghan Markle wasn't just another celebrity. She was a former duchess. A woman who once walked the halls of Buckingham Palace and later walked away from it all, claiming she wanted freedom and truth. But now, that same world she had fled was accusing her of being the one thing she had always tried to escape: fake. Let's pause for a second and ask the question everyone was thinking. Why did this tiny, harmless clip spark such a global uproar? Because it wasn't really about baseball. It was about belief. People have been conditioned to watch Meghan's every move through a filter of skepticism. When she smiles, they call it an act. When she frowns, they say it's manipulation. When she says nothing, they accuse her of plotting. In many ways, Meghan isn't fighting the press. She's fighting an invisible narrative that rewrites itself every time she breathes. And this time, the narrative hit hard. The internet's armchair psychologists began analyzing Harry's expression like a royal Rorschach test. Some said he looked emotionally checked out. Others said he appeared embarrassed. A few claimed it was symbolic of their marriage. Meghan as the performer, Harry as the prisoner. But there was one comment that cut through all the noise. A user wrote, "Cameras constantly filming every moment. Oh my gosh, look how happy we are and so into each other. See, we have a friend and it's not my bottle of wine." That line went viral because it said what millions were thinking, that the clip wasn't spontaneous joy, it was PR choreography. But was it? Here's where things started to twist. Sources close to the couple later revealed that Meghan didn't plan the video at all, at least not consciously. Kelly McKee, her longtime friend and fellow mother, was the one filming. Kelly, who lost her young son years ago and later dedicated her platform to charity, had invited Meghan and Harry for a night out to relax. It wasn't supposed to be work or strategy or performance. Just laughter, baseball, and community. Except for Meghan, nothing is ever just laughter anymore. Even in the stands, she's watched. Her face recognized. Every gesture magnified. And that night, when she stood up cheering, she forgot, for a split second, that the world was watching. But Kelly didn't. She saw her friend's joy and wanted to share it, unaware that by posting that short clip, she was about to reignite a media storm. And when she did, Meghan's world tilted again. Back at their Montecito home, the couple was reportedly blindsided by the backlash. One insider described the atmosphere that night as icy silence. Meghan was said to have scrolled through the comments until 2 a.m., stunned by how quickly celebration had turned into condemnation. Harry, on the other hand, was quiet, almost too quiet. "They hate me either way," Meghan reportedly told him. "If I'm happy, they call me fake. If I'm serious, they call me cold." But Harry's response was what shocked her most. "Maybe stop trying to convince them." Those words stung. Because for Meghan, convincing people, showing them that she was real, kind, misunderstood, had become her mission. It was the foundation of every interview, every appearance, every podcast. And now, with a single viral video, that mission crumbled. So, was the video staged? That depends on how you define staged. Was it scripted? No. Was it planned to the second? Probably not. But was it filtered through the lens of image management, the invisible instinct that every celebrity develops? Absolutely. Because when you've spent years being told your face, your tone, your laughter are wrong, you learn to control them. To perform, just a little. Not to deceive, but to protect. And that's where Meghan finds herself trapped, between the real and the rehearsed. Every camera becomes both an enemy and a lifeline. Every smile becomes both armor and target. And every attempt to look normal becomes proof, in the eyes of her critics, that she's anything but. But here's what the public didn't see. Just before that now infamous moment, Meghan had turned to Harry and whispered, "This is fun, right?" Her tone was soft, almost pleading. Harry had nodded but didn't smile. A friend sitting nearby claimed the air between them felt tense, even strained. The camera didn't capture that. It only captured the jump, the laugh, the frame where she looked like she was having the time of her life. Perception is everything. And that's exactly what made this video so dangerous. Because Meghan has spent years trying to rewrite her public image. The victim of royal cruelty. The woman who escaped the palace to build a new life. The loving wife, the compassionate mother, the Hollywood humanitarian. But in that stadium, for those 14 seconds, the mask cracked. Not because she failed to act, but because Harry refused to join the act. And audiences felt that disconnect instantly. "Look at her, forcing the energy," one viral tweet read. "And look at him, done with it all." That 1-2 punch, her exuberance and his indifference, was the perfect storm for social media outrage. The internet thrives on contradiction, and the clip delivered it in cinematic form. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Within hours of the backlash, several fans claimed there was another version of the clip, a longer one, allegedly showing Meghan glancing toward the camera before starting her jump. Some said it was deleted, others said it never existed. But that rumor was enough to feed the theory that the entire moment had been orchestrated. The truth? We may never know if that longer clip existed. But the damage was done. By sunrise, mainstream media had picked it up. Headlines screamed, "Was Meghan's Dodgers celebration staged?" Body language experts decode Meghan's performance. Harry's blank stare says it all. Within 24 hours, it was no longer a video. It was a verdict. And Meghan, once again, was on trial. It's hard to imagine the emotional toll of constantly living under scrutiny, but imagine this. You're out with friends, celebrating, feeling alive. Someone films you. Hours later, millions of strangers are debating whether your smile was genuine. They don't know you. They don't care. But they'll decide what's real. That's Meghan's life, magnified, commercialized, and weaponized. Still, amid the chaos, there was one moment that no one saw coming. A subtle shift in how Meghan reacted. She didn't lash out. She didn't post a rebuttal. Instead, she went silent. And that silence spoke volumes. Because silence, in Meghan's world, is never accidental. Days later, a source close to her leaked the now famous words, "I'm sorry I faked it." The quote spread faster than the original video. Critics called it a confession. Supporters called it vulnerability. But few stopped to ask, what was she really apologizing for? Was it the celebration itself? The smile? The years of trying to prove something? Or was it the quiet understanding that she no longer knew where performance ended and reality began? The video was supposed to be harmless. Instead, it became a mirror, reflecting not just Meghan's struggle, but our culture's obsession with authenticity and performance. Because maybe Meghan isn't the only one faking it. Maybe we all are, smiling for cameras, curating happiness, pretending to be unbothered while craving validation. Meghan's mistake was doing it under a spotlight that never turns off. And as the noise around the video grew louder, a darker truth began to surface. Whispers of what had really happened before the camera started rolling. Friends claimed the energy between Meghan and Harry wasn't tense just because of the game. There had been something earlier, an argument, quiet but sharp, that left both of them distant. A disagreement about how much of their private life should be shared publicly. Meghan wanted transparency. Harry wanted silence. Meghan believed showing joy made them relatable. Harry believed it made them targets. That tension simmered beneath the smiles, the laughter, the applause. And when the camera caught Meghan's exaggerated joy and Harry's blankness, it wasn't just about sports. It was about a marriage caught between two opposing worlds. And that, more than anything, was why the video struck such a nerve. Because the audience didn't just see performance, they saw pain. A woman desperate to connect, and a man quietly retreating. A marriage built on rebellion, now cracking under exposure. A celebration that wasn't fake, just forced. But that was only the beginning. Because as the video spread, more details began to surface. More voices began to speak. And soon, it became clear that what looked like a simple night at a baseball game had far more layers. Layers of manipulation, media strategy, and unspoken resentment. And when Meghan finally broke her silence, the world realized that her words, "I'm sorry I faked it," weren't just about one night. They were about everything that led to it. But what was she really apologizing for? What happened behind the scenes before the clip went live? And why did even her closest friends start to distance themselves after it all? The answers to those questions would take this story from Hollywood gossip to something far deeper, a glimpse into the collapse of a carefully crafted illusion. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't come out in interviews or headlines. It slips through, in a single glance, a forced smile, or a celebration that no one believes. And as the world was about to discover, that Dodgers clip was just the first crack in a much bigger story. What came next would reveal everything Meghan tried to hide, and the price she would pay for admitting she faked it. What is perception really? Is it what we see, or what we want to believe? For Meghan Markle, perception has never been just about reality. It's been the battlefield where truth and illusion collide, a place where her every move becomes a headline, her every expression a question mark. When people saw that World Series clip, they didn't see a woman cheering for her favorite team. They saw a symbol, a face that carried the weight of years of contradictions. To some, Meghan was the victim who escaped the royal machine. To others, she was the manipulator who turned her pain into publicity. And somewhere in between those extremes lived the real Meghan, the one who just wanted to be seen for who she was. But in Meghan's world, perception isn't something you control. It controls you. The irony is that Meghan began her career by shaping perceptions. Before she was a duchess, she was an actress. Her entire livelihood depended on making audiences believe in emotions that weren't real: love, grief, joy, whatever the script demanded. But once the cameras turned to her real life, the world stopped believing. In Hollywood, performance earns applause. In the royal world, it earns suspicion. That's the curse Meghan has carried since the day she walked into the palace gates. She's too polished to be relatable, too emotional to be regal, too ambitious to be likable. But here's where the contradiction cuts even deeper. She's also too human to be perfect. And the world doesn't forgive imperfection when it comes wrapped in diamonds and designer gowns. Let's rewind to her early years in Hollywood. Meghan was not a superstar. She was a hustler, a woman grinding through auditions, taking bit roles, learning the art of charm. On the set of Suits, her colleagues often described her as meticulous, never unprepared, never off-brand. She wasn't just playing Rachel Zane. She became her, confident, elegant, driven. That work ethic followed her into the royal world. But so did that instinct, the awareness of how a camera sees you, how an audience interprets you. It's not a switch you can turn off. So when people accuse Meghan of staging happiness, it's not always deceit. Sometimes it's survival. Because in her life, performance became protection. Remember that infamous interview years ago, when she said, "Not many people have asked if I'm okay"? That wasn't scripted. That was real. But even then, people said she was acting. They said her tears were calculated, her tone rehearsed. It's a cruel paradox. When she's composed, they call her robotic. When she's emotional, they call her manipulative. When she smiles, it's fake. When she frowns, she's bitter. There's no winning hand in this game. And Meghan's been playing it for years. The Dodgers video was simply the latest round. One could argue that Meghan has always existed in two worlds, the one she lives and the one people imagine she lives. The public version of Meghan isn't built on facts. It's built on perception, edited by tabloids, filtered through commentary, exaggerated by online gossip. And perception, once set in motion, doesn't need truth to survive. It just needs repetition. That's why, when Meghan laughed that night, genuinely, freely, the world didn't see laughter. It saw manipulation. Let's look closer at how that perception became so deeply ingrained. When Meghan joined the royal family, she was hailed as a breath of fresh air, modern, biracial, outspoken. She represented progress. But soon, that same narrative turned against her. Every gesture became inappropriate. Every outfit too glamorous. Every word too political. The British press crafted a story. Meghan the diva, Meghan the disruptor, Meghan the actress who couldn't stop performing. It was the story people wanted, the one that sold papers and fueled clicks. And over time, it became gospel. Now, fast forward to Los Angeles. She's no longer a royal, no longer under palace rules. But that perception followed her like a shadow. The camera lens might have changed, but the audience didn't. Even in her freedom, Meghan couldn't escape the role the world had cast her in. Because the truth is, people don't want Meghan to be real. They want her to fit the version they've already decided she is. And that's the tragedy of perception. Once it's formed, it's almost impossible to break. Let's be honest. Part of Meghan's struggle comes from her own contradictions. She craves privacy, but also thrives in visibility. She says she doesn't read the tabloids, but references their cruelty in interviews. She denounces fame, yet collaborates with Netflix, Spotify, and Oprah to tell her story. And while those contradictions make her human, they also make her vulnerable to public hypocrisy. Because the same people who demand honesty also punish imperfection. Imagine living in that loop, wanting to be authentic, but knowing authenticity will be used against you. That's why, when she faked a smile at that game, she wasn't faking joy, she was faking safety. There's a difference between lying and performing to survive. And that difference is everything. Let's ask ourselves, if you knew that every blink, every gesture, every smile would be slowed down, analyzed, and weaponized against you, how long could you stay real? Now imagine doing it every day for 7 years. That's Meghan's life. It's easy to say she should stop caring. But what happens when your livelihood, your image, your income, your entire existence depends on perception? Every public figure dances on that line. But Meghan's dance is more treacherous because her audience doesn't just want entertainment, it wants confession. It wants to see her break. And when that night at the World Series offered a glimpse, even a hint, a fracture between her and Harry, people didn't just notice. They celebrated. That's the darkness of perception. The audience that once cheered for your fairy tale now cheers for your downfall. Still, Meghan isn't just a victim of perception. She's also a master of it. She knows how to shape an image, when to drop a quote, when to release a photo. Her team understands the rhythm of media attention. But the Dodgers' backlash showed that even the most careful orchestration can collapse when emotion enters the frame. Because emotion doesn't follow strategy. It leaks through. And in that moment, when Harry's distant eyes met Meghan's forced joy, emotion overpowered design. It wasn't a PR failure. It was a human one. That's what made the clip powerful. It was the first time in years that the world saw a crack in the Markle brand. And people pounced. But what if that crack wasn't a flaw? What if it was the truth seeping out? The part of Meghan she's been trying to suppress since she left the palace. Maybe the smile, the cheering, the camera-ready energy, all of it, was a desperate attempt to prove she could still shine without royal approval. Because deep down, Meghan's greatest fear isn't being hated. It's being irrelevant. And that's the danger of perception. It makes you chase an illusion until you lose yourself. Behind the scenes, insiders say Meghan became obsessed with controlling her narrative after that night. She reportedly called her PR strategist hours after the clip blew up, saying, "We have to get ahead of this. I can't let them define me again." But it was already too late. The internet had already chosen its version of the story, the same way it did during her royal exit, her Oprah interview, and her podcast controversy. Once perception hardens, truth becomes background noise. Still, Meghan wasn't ready to surrender. She reportedly began drafting an open statement, something emotional, raw, self-aware. She wanted to take back the narrative before it drowned her. But Harry, sources say, urged her not to. Let it go, he told her. The more we react, the worse it gets. He had a point. But to Meghan, silence felt like suffocation. Because perception isn't just how others see you. It's how you see yourself reflected through them. And for Meghan, that reflection had become unbearable. So when she finally spoke, when she said, "I'm sorry I faked it," it wasn't a PR maneuver. It was a crack in the armor. But perception is merciless. Instead of softening public judgment, her words reignited it. She admits it, critics said. She's been lying all along. No one heard the exhaustion in her tone, the vulnerability, the surrender. They only heard confirmation bias echoing back at them. Because that's the power of perception, it doesn't seek truth. It seeks validation. And every time Meghan tries to show her humanity, people twist it into evidence of deceit. So, what happens to a person who's trapped inside the world's opinion of her? Who begins to believe that she is whatever the headlines say? That's where the real tragedy begins. Friends have described Meghan as haunted by her image. She keeps track of narratives, follows threads, even scrolls incognito accounts to gauge what people say. She wants to fix it, to find the perfect balance between being seen and being believed. But you can't repair something that was never real to begin with. Because public perception isn't a mirror. It's a funhouse, and Meghan has been trapped inside it for years. Still, something about that Dodgers video shifted her. Maybe it was the backlash. Maybe it was Harry's distance. Or maybe it was the realization that even her most joyful moments could be turned against her. Whatever it was, it marked a turning point. That night, the game ended, but something inside Meghan did too. Her belief that she could control how people saw her. And that's when she stopped defending, stopped posting, stopped explaining. But what no one knew at the time was that her silence wasn't empty. It was strategy. Because behind closed doors, Meghan was preparing something that would shock even her critics. A public admission that would blur the line between truth and manipulation forever. And the irony? She wasn't the only one shaping perception. Someone close to her, someone she trusted, was doing the same thing. Someone who knew that the key to Meghan's downfall wouldn't come from lies, but from her own words. And that betrayal would turn the world's attention toward one person Meghan thought would never betray her, the woman behind the camera. Because what happened next would prove that perception isn't just power. It's the weapon that can destroy you. And in Meghan's case, that weapon was already in her best friend's hands. Every scandal has a spark. And in this one, that spark had a name, Kelly McKee-Zajfin. To the world, she was just a name in the caption. The cheerful friend who posted the Dodgers clip that would blow up Meghan Markle's image for the 100th time. But inside Meghan's carefully built circle, Kelly was more than that. She was the one person who understood Meghan, or at least, Meghan believed she did. So when the world began dissecting that now infamous 14-second video, Meghan's first reaction wasn't anger at the internet. It was confusion toward Kelly. Why post it? Why now? And why did it look so staged? The story of Kelly and Meghan's friendship didn't start under stadium lights. It began years earlier, long before Meghan became a duchess. Both were California women, both deeply involved in charity work and motherhood, both building lives defined by image and empathy. They moved in the same Los Angeles wellness circles, yoga, philanthropy, and influencer partnerships. Kelly, a former model turned activist, had built a modest but devoted following through her organization, Alliance of Moms. Her work focused on supporting mothers in crisis, drawing attention to causes that rarely reached Hollywood's glittering towers. She was warm, approachable, the kind of woman who could make you feel safe within seconds. And Meghan, the actress navigating her post-royal identity, saw a kindred spirit. Their friendship blossomed during Meghan's early Montecito years. The two women would often be spotted at fundraisers, private brunches, and wellness retreats. Kelly was one of the few friends Meghan kept close after her fallout with several others, including Jessica Mulroney. It was Kelly who invited Meghan to that World Series game. A girls' night, she said. Just laughter, baseball, and no palace press officers lurking in the shadows. It was supposed to be a chance for Meghan to breathe. But that night, Kelly's phone became the camera that captured everything. To Kelly, posting the clip was harmless, even sweet. She wanted to share the joy, to show the world that her famous friend could let loose and be normal. But in Meghan's world, nothing is normal. Once Kelly hit post, the video stopped being a personal moment and became public property, and the internet treated it like evidence. Almost instantly, people began noticing details: the perfect lighting, the smooth angle, the way Meghan seemed positioned in the center of the frame. "She's acting for the camera again," one comment read. "Funny how the camera just happened to be there," another scoffed. "Looks like they rehearsed that shot," someone else wrote. Those words hit like knives. Because whether Kelly meant to or not, the post fed into the exact narrative Meghan had spent years running from: the fake performer who stages her life for attention. And Meghan knew it. Sources close to her later revealed that she called Kelly the next morning, her voice trembling between confusion and anger. "Why did you post that?" she reportedly asked. Kelly, blindsided, laughed it off. "It was just fun, Meg." Everyone loved it. Everyone, except Meghan. Because for Meghan, that clip wasn't fun anymore. It was proof. Proof that no matter how innocent her intentions, the world would twist everything. Still, Kelly didn't understand the depth of the damage. She wasn't used to living under Meghan's microscope. To Kelly, it was a few seconds of joy. To Meghan, it was a headline that would follow her for weeks. But what happened next turned that misunderstanding into a full-blown fracture. A few hours after the video went viral, Meghan's PR team reportedly reached out to Kelly privately, asking her to delete the post. Kelly hesitated. She didn't want to fuel gossip by removing it, and besides, it was already everywhere. The internet had cloned, reposted, and memified it beyond recovery. When Kelly refused, the friendship began to crumble. Meghan, insiders claim, felt betrayed, not just by the post, but by Kelly's silence afterward. "She didn't defend me," Meghan allegedly told a confidant. "She just sat there while everyone called me fake." And in a world where perception was everything, silence felt like betrayal. But Kelly wasn't silent because she didn't care. She was silent because she didn't know what to say. She had no media training, no palace experience, no crisis manual. She watched her post turn into a global spectacle and didn't know how to fix it. So she did what most people would. She stepped back. But stepping back in Meghan's world doesn't look like neutrality. It looks like disloyalty. And when trust breaks inside a circle that small, the cracks spread fast. Rumors soon began swirling that Kelly had been more than just a friend. That she had quietly partnered with Meghan's media contacts to help rebuild her relatability image in Hollywood. The theory was that Kelly's post wasn't random, that it was part of a subtle PR reset after months of negative headlines. Was that true? No one knows for certain. But it didn't matter. The speculation had already poisoned the air. Because perception doesn't wait for facts. When Meghan's critics saw that clip, they didn't see friendship. They saw manipulation. They believed the video was another attempt to craft a perfect narrative, one where Meghan looked fun, carefree, relatable, while Harry, ever the brooding prince, played the foil. And whether that theory was fair or not, it stuck. Still, something even stranger happened in the weeks that followed. A longer, unseen version of the video mysteriously surfaced online for a brief window. It was quickly taken down, but not before a few users claimed they saw Meghan adjusting her hair, glancing at the camera, and saying something like, "Okay, ready?" No one ever verified it, but the rumor alone reignited the backlash. The narrative shifted again. Now, Kelly wasn't just a friend. She was a possible accomplice. Reporters started digging. Who exactly was Kelly McKee-Zajfan? Why was she close to Meghan? What role did she play in the couple's post-royal image machine? And as the questions grew louder, so did the tension between the two women. Kelly stayed quiet publicly, posting only cheerful, apolitical content, charity events, family updates, and wellness quotes. But behind the scenes, she was allegedly devastated. She had lost a friend and was being painted as the woman who outed Meghan's authenticity. Meanwhile, Meghan's inner circle reportedly began tightening. Invitations grew scarce. Calls went unanswered. Trust, once easy, became a currency Meghan spent sparingly. Because when your image has been shattered once, you don't hand anyone else the hammer. Still, The irony of it all couldn't be ignored. Meghan's world revolved around controlling perception, yet her downfall came from someone who never intended to control anything. Kelly wasn't a journalist. She wasn't a PR strategist. She was a mother and an activist who, in one innocent gesture, exposed how fragile Meghan's entire world really was. It was a sobering truth. Every image, every clip, every public moment was now a loaded weapon. Even joy could be dangerous. Even friendship could turn fatal. For Meghan, that realization was devastating. Insiders say that after the fallout, Meghan withdrew, skipping social events, avoiding cameras, and reportedly unfollowing several acquaintances. She began to question not just her public persona, but the people who surrounded her. Had they ever seen her as Meghan, the woman, or only Meghan, the brand? That's the price of perception. It isolates you. You start to wonder if everyone around you is a fan, a friend, or a potential headline. And Meghan had reason to be suspicious. Because not long after the video scandal, fragments of private conversations between her and Kelly began leaking to gossip outlets. They weren't explosive, but they were personal, messages about motherhood, work stress, and the pressures of fame. Enough to raise eyebrows. No one ever confirmed if Kelly was the source. She denied it privately to mutual friends, insisting she'd never betray Meghan. But the damage was irreversible. For Meghan, trust wasn't something that could be repaired. It could only be replaced. And yet, beneath the anger, there was grief. Because Kelly represented something Meghan had been chasing ever since leaving the royal family: genuine connection. Someone who didn't need her for access, money, or fame. Someone who could just laugh with her over something as simple as a baseball game. And when that connection shattered, it wasn't just a friendship lost. It was proof that maybe Meghan's life had become impossible to live authentically. Every friendship now carried risk. Every photo could be misinterpreted. Every word could become a headline. So when Meghan finally said, "I'm sorry I faked it," maybe she wasn't talking about her reaction at the game at all. Maybe she was apologizing for the fact that she no longer knew how to live without faking. And that's the heartbreak hidden beneath the spectacle, the slow erosion of realness in a life built on public perception. But Kelly's role in this story wasn't over. Because while Meghan retreated, Kelly started noticing something strange. People reaching out, asking for her side, wanting to help her tell her story. A few even hinted at offers from magazines willing to pay for her perspective. She turned them all down, but it was too late. Her name was already in circulation. The friend who posted the clip. The woman who betrayed the Duchess. The camera that captured the truth. But one detail no one noticed might have been the most revealing of all. When Kelly filmed the clip, her phone wasn't just recording video. It was connected to a live-sharing feature, syncing automatically to a shared cloud folder. A folder that several mutual friends had access to. And one of those friends would later use that footage in a way that shocked them both. Because a few weeks after Meghan's apology made headlines, another video surfaced. One showing Meghan moments before the Dodgers celebration. In it, she's seen adjusting her jacket, checking her reflection, and asking softly, "Does this look natural?" It was a harmless question, one anyone might ask before being filmed. But in the context of her apology, it became explosive. Now, it looked like Meghan had planned everything, from her reaction to her eventual confession. The fallout was brutal. And once again, Kelly was caught in the crossfire, accused of leaking footage she never meant to share. Whether she did or not remains a mystery. But the damage it caused was permanent. Because that second video didn't just reignite the backlash, it redefined the story. Now, it wasn't about a faked celebration. It was about a friendship undone by trust, technology, and timing. And Meghan, the woman who once believed she could curate her narrative, found herself watching that narrative crumble, not at the hands of the press or the palace, but at the hands of someone who had once called her sister. In Meghan's world, perception isn't just power. It's poison. And in the chapters to come, that poison would begin to spread through her marriage, her friendships, and her entire public identity. Because if Kelly's camera could expose her once, it could happen again. And the next time, the consequences would be far worse. Silence can speak louder than any scream. And that night, under the roaring stadium lights of the World Series, Prince Harry's silence was deafening. Millions of people watched Meghan Markle's animated celebration. The cheers, the jumps, the bright California energy. But what froze the audience wasn't her laughter. It was him, the man sitting right beside her, motionless, expressionless, lost in thought, as if he were anywhere but there. It was just a few seconds of indifference, but it said everything the tabloids had been whispering for months. Harry looked tired. Not physically, emotionally. The kind of fatigue that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying the weight of disappointment too long. While Meghan clapped and shouted, "Go Dodgers!" Harry's eyes stayed distant, unfocused. Some fans said he looked embarrassed. Others said he looked bored. But those who watched closely noticed something more profound. A man silently unraveling beside the woman who was still trying to hold the performance together. At first, no one wanted to believe it. Maybe he was distracted. Maybe he was caught off guard. But when you slow the footage down, and the internet did, frame by frame, you see it. The half-hearted smile, the forced clap, the slow exhale. It wasn't just disinterest. It was disconnection. And in that one glance, it told the story of a marriage built on rebellion but strained by reality. To understand that look, that chilling quiet, you have to go back to the years leading up to it. Harry and Meghan once prided themselves on being the authentic royals, unafraid to speak their truth, unwilling to play the palace game. But what began as liberation slowly turned into a different kind of performance, one that demanded constant justification. Every interview, every podcast, every public appearance was another act in a never-ending play about freedom. But freedom, as Harry would later admit privately, can be exhausting. Leaving the monarchy didn't end the scrutiny. It amplified it. The paparazzi didn't disappear, they multiplied. The criticism didn't fade, it grew louder. And Meghan, ever the communicator, wanted to control the message. To show the world that they were still happy, still powerful, still in love. Harry didn't see it that way. To him, every photo op, every calculated post felt like the same old cycle, just with a different backdrop. Instead of palace aides managing optics, now it was PR executives, Netflix producers, and social media managers. The faces changed, but the feeling didn't. He'd traded one stage for another. And that's why, on that night at the Dodgers game, his silence wasn't an accident. It was rebellion, the quiet kind. People who know Harry say he's never been comfortable in rooms that demand performance. He's the kind of man who thrives in small circles, around laughter, beer, and honesty, not cameras. But ever since he moved to California, honesty has become a luxury he can't afford. So he sits there, the former prince turned reluctant celebrity, caught between wanting to support his wife and wanting to disappear. Insiders close to the couple claim that before the game, there had been tension. Harry didn't want to attend. Meghan insisted. She saw it as a rare opportunity, a chance to appear relatable, blending royal glamour with Hollywood casual. "It'll be fun," she reportedly said. "People will love seeing us like this." But Harry wasn't convinced. "They won't see us," he told her. "They'll see whatever they want to." That line, simple as it was, revealed everything. Because while Meghan still believed she could shape perception, Harry had stopped trying long ago. He knew the game was rigged. No matter what they did, no matter how real they tried to be, people would project their own stories onto them. He had accepted that. Meghan hadn't. So when Kelly McKee-Zajfin posted that clip, the one showing Meghan's exuberance and Harry's detachment, it wasn't just a viral moment. It was a snapshot of two people living in different worlds, side by side. The world saw a woman desperate to be loved, and a man quietly slipping away. But there's another layer the cameras didn't catch. According to one source who sat near them, Meghan had whispered something to Harry moments before the celebration. Something that, in hindsight, might explain his reaction. "They're watching, Harry. Just smile." That one sentence, innocent, maybe even affectionate, was the trigger. Because for Harry, it echoed every memory he'd been trying to escape since the day he left the royal family. The performative smiles, the scripted appearances, the "just one more photo, sir." He left all that behind to live honestly. But in that moment, under the stadium lights, it felt like he was right back in the gilded cage. And Meghan, though she didn't mean to, had become the warden. As the crowd erupted around them, Harry's mind wasn't on the game. It was elsewhere, somewhere quieter, somewhere far away from the flashing cameras and endless judgment. Maybe back in Windsor, maybe in Botswana, maybe in a life that felt simpler. His silence that night wasn't indifference. It was grief. The grief of realizing that no matter how far you run, the ghosts follow. After the video went viral, body language experts were quick to dissect their every move. One analyst on a morning show said, Harry's posture suggests discomfort. His shoulders turned slightly away from Meghan, creating physical and emotional distance. He's disconnected, almost disengaged from her energy. Another went further. Meghan's overexcitement feels performative, compensating for something. Harry's stillness is not boredom, it's detachment. That word, detachment, became the headline. Within days, the narrative had shifted from Meghan faked a celebration to Harry is done pretending. And for once, Harry didn't deny it. A close friend told the press anonymously, Harry's tired of being a showpiece. He didn't leave one circus just to join another. Behind the scenes, tension between the couple reportedly grew. Meghan was upset, not at the backlash itself, but at Harry's refusal to publicly defend her. Say something, she allegedly told him. They're tearing me apart again. Harry didn't. He'd learned the hard way that words only feed the beast. The more they explained themselves, the more the world twisted their truth. But Meghan couldn't accept that silence. For her, silence wasn't strength, it was surrender. Their argument that night, insiders say, wasn't about baseball at all. It was about identity. Meghan wanted to reclaim hers. Harry wanted to lose his. And as they drove home from the game, that tension boiled over. You're the one who told me to be myself, Meghan reportedly said. Being yourself doesn't mean performing, Harry shot back. I wasn't performing. I was having fun. You look like you were trying too hard. Those words hung in the car like smoke. Because deep down, they both knew what trying too hard meant. It wasn't about the Dodgers. It was about everything. Their marriage, their reputation, their quest for authenticity in a world that no longer believed in it. And Harry, in that silence, had become the symbol of what happens when authenticity runs out of air. People close to the couple say that Meghan's "I'm sorry I faked it" comment was born from that fight. It wasn't a public apology. It was a personal confession, a rare moment of honesty between two people exhausted by pretending. But once those words leaked to the media, the meaning changed. To the world, it sounded like a headline. To Harry, it sounded like heartbreak. Because no matter how she tried to explain herself, the damage was done. Her apology became his confirmation that yes, something about their life was fake. And Harry, who had always hated pretense, felt vindicated and hollow all at once. It's easy to judge him, to call him cold, detached, ungrateful. But the truth is, Harry's silence isn't cruelty. It's his coping mechanism. He's a man who grew up surrounded by noise, media, duty, family drama, and learned that silence was the only thing they couldn't twist. When his mother died, the cameras never left. When he fell in love, the headlines screamed. When he married Meghan, the world turned that love into spectacle. And when he left the royal family, silence became his only refuge. So when people ask why he sat still that night, why he didn't clap, why he didn't smile, maybe the answer is simple. Because he's tired. Tired of the acting, tired of the endless commentary, tired of pretending that joy is still real when every moment feels curated. And that's what made his silence so haunting. Because it wasn't a performance. It was the absence of one. For Meghan, who thrives on connection, that silence was unbearable. For Harry, who equates noise with chaos, it was the only peace he knew. Two people, one stadium, millions watching, but not one seeing the truth. Harry's disinterest wasn't just about a game. It was about a man realizing that even his freedom had become a spectacle. And Meghan, still fighting to prove that their life wasn't an act, didn't see that her husband had already stepped off stage. Their smiles that night belonged to different worlds, hers to the audience, his to the ghosts. And in the end, it was that divide, invisible yet undeniable, that made the clip so powerful. Because it captured a truth no one wanted to admit. The fairy tale wasn't broken. It was quietly fading. After the game, after the viral chaos, Harry withdrew further. Friends said he spent days avoiding the media, ignoring messages, focusing on the children. Meghan, meanwhile, obsessed over the fallout, refreshing feeds, calling advisors, trying to salvage her narrative. Two people, sharing the same roof, living in different storms. That's what silence does. It doesn't always end things loudly. Sometimes, it just creates distance so wide that no apology can cross it. And as the world would soon discover, that distance between Meghan and Harry wasn't just emotional. Because Harry's silence was about to take on a new form. One that would leave Meghan stunned and the public guessing whether their partnership had already reached its quiet breaking point. Because what Harry did next wasn't loud. It was silent. But it spoke volumes. By the morning after the Dodgers game, Meghan Markle's Montecito mansion was not a home. It was a war room. Phones buzzed, emails flooded in, and one word kept echoing through every conversation: crisis. The clip that had been meant to capture a few seconds of joy had mutated overnight into a viral disaster. It wasn't just the mocking memes or the tabloid headlines that cut deep, it was the tone. The internet wasn't laughing with Meghan, it was laughing at her. "She's performing again," one headline read. "The Duchess can't stop acting, even at a baseball game," another taunted. And then came the side-by-side comparisons. Meghan's exuberant celebration next to Harry's deadpan face. The captions were brutal. One of them still acting, the other's done with the show. Inside the Archwell offices, Meghan's team knew they were dealing with more than just bad optics. They were dealing with a narrative, and narratives spread faster than facts. By sunrise, her publicist had called an emergency meeting. The staff gathered around a long marble table, faces pale from sleepless nights and stress. On one end sat Meghan, clutching her phone, scrolling through endless threads. On the other, her head of PR, calm, composed, battle-hardened. "This is a perception crisis," the strategist said bluntly. "We can't delete it. We can't deny it. So we redirect it." Meghan nodded but didn't look up. Her eyes were red from crying, not because of the backlash, but because of one comment she couldn't shake. "She's not fooling anyone anymore." That single line echoed through her mind like a siren. Because that's what she feared most. Not being hated, but being irrelevant. The PR team laid out options. Ignore it completely. Let the story die on its own. Acknowledge it softly. Laugh it off as a playful moment gone wrong. Reclaim it emotionally. Address the clip with honesty, vulnerability, maybe even an apology. Option 3 terrified them all. Vulnerability had worked for Meghan before, but it also made her a target. Every time she'd opened up, the world twisted her words into weakness. But this time, silence might be worse. Her strategist leaned forward. "If you own the narrative, you can control the damage. But if you let them write it for you." Meghan interrupted, her voice sharp. "They already have." That was the problem. The story was moving faster than they could catch it. By that afternoon, news outlets from London to Los Angeles were dissecting the clip. Body language experts, former palace aides, social media influencers, everyone had an opinion. But the worst was the chatter from inside Hollywood. The same circles Meghan had spent months trying to impress. The Netflix executives, charity sponsors, A-list neighbors, were whispering that she had lost her authenticity. To them, image was currency, and Meghan's stock was falling fast. So, the machine went to work. Emails were drafted, statements crafted, analytics pulled. They tracked sentiment across thousands of posts, mapping trends in real time. The data painted a brutal picture. 68% negative mentions in 24 hours, 32% mocking or performance-related comments. Her head of PR didn't sugarcoat it. "This is worse than the podcast cancellation," he said. "It's viral, and it's personal." That word, personal, hit Meghan like a dagger. Because it wasn't about a project or a brand. It was about her. Her face, her energy, her voice. And for Meghan, those weren't props. They were armor. Still, the machine had no time for emotion. The team proposed a multi-phase response plan. Step 1, quietly shift the focus. Flood the algorithm with positive stories. Meghan's charity work, her mentorship program, her upcoming docuseries. Step 2, release controlled imagery, warm, candid moments with Harry and the kids. Step 3, prepare a potential statement that could frame her as human, imperfect, and self-aware. Meghan listened but said little. Because deep down, she wasn't thinking about optics. She was thinking about Harry. The way he'd sat there, unmoved. The way his silence had fueled everything. The way she had felt alone, even in front of millions. At that table, surrounded by strategists and screens, she realized something chilling. Her husband's indifference had become the centerpiece of the story. Every headline mentioned him. Every meme used his expression. The narrative wasn't just Meghan faked it. It was Harry's done pretending. And that was something her PR team couldn't fix. Later that night, after the meeting ended, Meghan sat in the living room in silence. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that hums with tension. Harry was in another room, reading. She wanted to talk to him, to ask if he understood what this meant, but she couldn't. Not tonight. Instead, she opened her laptop and began writing. Not a public statement, not yet, but something more raw. A letter to herself. Maybe I was performing, she wrote. Maybe I always have been. Because when you live your whole life being watched, it's not easy to stop acting.